David Zussman knows a thing about federal cabinets and getting a government up and running. He advised the Chrétien government as part of Prime Minister Jean Chrétien's transition team after his election in 1993. And Mr. Zussman now teaches at the University of Victoria, and we have reached him in Victoria. Mr. Zussman, thanks for taking the time.
My pleasure.
Can we start, with the obvious question that heading into this minority government, what would you say were the major things, the major concerns on Justin Trudeau's mind as he put together this cabinet?
Well, first of all, he's starting with a smaller caucus than he had previously. In 2015, I think he surprised Canadians by really winning a very large majority, which gave him a large number of people to choose from when he made his cabinet. Although most of them were inexperienced, the situation he finds himself in today is he has a fairly experienced cabinet. He's been a prime minister for 4 years. He's learned a lot along the way, but he has a smaller number of people to work from. And given that I suspect he wants to have equal number of men and women in the cabinet, he again will have the challenges of finding appropriate women to fill the positions that need to be filled.
You mentioned the experience level. Obviously, he's going to be keeping, and there's a lot of indication that he is going to be keeping some experienced cabinet ministers. There's some indications that he won't be moving some of those senior ministers. For example, we've had multiple suggestions that he won't be moving Bill Morneau. But what about, if we just take an example of other, and albeit these are rumors, but there's talk about Chrystia Freeland, the Foreign Affairs Minister, possibly being moved to Intergovernmental Affairs to reflect the importance that that portfolio might take on, given the tensions of not having elected anyone in the prairies or Alberta. Go through what would go through the thinking of that, and whether you think that's a legitimate scenario.
Well, I think it's a good idea to be speculating about this particular portfolio, because the intergovernmental job is going to be extremely important for a number of reasons, but particularly because of many of the policy issues that the Prime Minister has to confront really require the participation and the full participation of the provinces. And so the position of Federal Provincial Relations Minister or intergovernmental is a crucial one. The risk, of course, of taking one of his most successful ministers and moving her or him into this type of role means that much of the work that was started under their leadership in the previous portfolio, like global affairs, international trade, would be left to a new untested minister. So I think he has to weigh the benefits of signaling the importance of the new portfolio by putting an experienced hand there, but taking that person away from a job that's not yet finished. So I'm actually looking to other potential ministers who could fill this important role in the cabinet. He has a number of other important cabinet positions to fill. Given that we're in a minority government situation, the government has also got to look for a strong House leader, right. And he has to ask himself whether the incumbent in that job today can handle the rigors of the minority government situation, which really means forging meaningful and real working relations with opposition parties. This is something that really wasn't required in the previous job, enjoying, of course, a large majority. But now the success of this government, in fact, its survival, depends on the House leader's ability to work with the opposition parties.
Okay, I want to jump in there because it is interesting. I want to throw out three elements which you have dealt with and in dealing with governments. One of them is the rumor was if, for example, and albeit if, Chrystia Freeland were to move to another portfolio, there was a suggestion that she could be made Deputy Prime Minister. You've dealt with governments, and in the past, until Stephen Harper and Justin Trudeau, there was always a Deputy Prime, or there always seemed to be a Deputy Prime Minister. What's the rationale for having or not having a Deputy Prime Minister?
Well, we don't have a long history of Deputy Prime Ministers, and this, of course, is largely done at the call of the Prime Minister, and whether the Prime Minister is looking for someone who has either real experience that could help him or her carry out their job more effectively, or they want to send a symbolic signal to individuals that this particular cabinet minister enjoys a special relationship with the Prime Minister. So yes, there could be a deputy prime minister, but as you pointed out, last couple of governments, we haven't seen anyone fulfilling this role. But I think the crucial question to ask is whether there's a need for a deputy prime minister, and there's going to be an enhanced role for a minister in this government. So that's something to look for, but not to be particularly disappointed if we don't have one.
Indigenous representation. I know you've spoken about that because obviously much was made of Jody Wilson-Raybould. She, as everyone knows, is no longer in the cabinet. She's sitting as an independent. How important is that going to be to find a replacement or to have an Indigenous minister, at least one?
I think, given this prime minister's personal priorities, I think finding an Indigenous leader from among his caucus to fulfill an important role in the cabinet room, I think is going to be a high priority for him. And he has a number of people to choose from. I think all of them are inexperienced in government. So was Jody Wilson-Raybould when she was first appointed, and so I think he certainly, I think, will be finding someone from among his ranks to fill the role that she played in 2015.
Okay, I'm going to put you back into your role of transition advisor. When you have someone like Catherine McKenna, who has for the last 4 years, the life of the whole first Trudeau government, she was the environment minister. I won't call her a beleaguered, but she's very much under attack in some quarters. It's been a very, very heavy lifting portfolio. There's some suggestions that she may need a break or want a break. We don't know that. What would go through your mind as Prime Minister, whether you consider to keep her on for continuity or not, and give her a break and give her another portfolio?
Well, I would imagine over the course of the last 4 weeks, the Prime Minister's had an opportunity to talk to all of his ministers about whether they're interested in staying on or whether they'd like to find new challenges as the Minister of another portfolio. In her particular case, I think that's absolutely correct. Catherine McKenna has had a massive workload, and given the fact that she's also an Ottawa Member of Parliament, she's also had, I suspect, a huge amount of constituency work to do as well. So I don't know whether she's put up her hand and said to the Prime Minister, you know, I've enjoyed this very much, but I've gotten a little tired, give me something less pressing. But she may also, given her strong commitment to environmental issues and climate change, that she may have said, look, I haven't finished my job here, and I'd like to have a couple of more years to finish off much of what I started. One of the things about this particular government is that it started a large number of initiatives in 2015, but many of them are yet unfulfilled, in fact. So there's a lot of work to be finished, and I think some of the ministers may actually be asking to stay on to finish off what they had started.
Okay, a last point. One thing that is particular about a minority government, too, as you know, is that there is a lot of talent that's going to be needed in those vital roles of committee chairs, because the committees are going to have a majority of opposition members. So each committee can really get bogged down or can be quite democratic, however you want to look at it. How important and how much does that actually take some of the candidates away from cabinet selection?
Well, that's a very good question. I doubt very much that the Prime Minister would give precedence to committee chairs over cabinet appointments, given the crucial role that the cabinet plays in our constitutional system, if you like, our Westminster system. But he's going to pay a lot of attention to the talents of the committee chairs and make sure that he's appointing people who can manage what will often be difficult working relationships. The committee chairs can't count on the majority of the members being liberal, so it's going to have to find support among the opposition parties, just like the House leader will have to find support as well. So he may be looking for a different talent set than he had or needed in 2015.
Okay, well, on that note, we're out of time, but I want to thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us, and we will speak with you as we continue to monitor and in the life of this new minority government. Thanks for speaking with us.
I look forward to it. Thanks so much. Bye-bye now.